Hello beauties, and welcome back to the Bumpy Bones Locksport channel. Now, I've gotten questions from friends in the past asking me how to go about picking a lock. And so what I thought would be a good idea to do would be to create a new video series. And in this series, what I'm going to do is take a look at the various belt levels in the Lockpickers United belt system. So we'll start off with the white belt level, and that will include some basic locks like the Master Lock 1, 3, 5, 7. I've got a Master Lock M530 CD version here. And these are locks that are simple locks. They are 4-pin tumbler locks with standard driver pins, nothing special. They're really good beginning locks to learn. And then what we'll do is we'll take a look at some yellow belt level locks, and this will include like the Master Lock 130, 140, 141, the 930 Master Lock, and we're going to take a look at some other brands. And so we've got Brinks Commercial 662 here. We have a Brinks 677, and we also have American Lock 5200 here. Now, when we hit the yellow belt level, what we're going to start encountering are some additional factors. So like security pins, like serrated pins or spool pins. Typically spool pins we'll see with these. But it might be a combination of standard pins and that. Then what we'll do is we will go on to our orange belt level. And with this, what we'll see is we've got like ABIS. We got the ABIS 5540, 5550. We've got a Schlage Everest here that we'll take a look at. I got a 150. We've got a Master Lock 1921. I also have a Master Lock M530 DF version here, and the reason I'm including this one is it has the same pinning as the 1921 in terms of security pins, number of pins. So I really kind of want to showcase that with like the 530 and the 930 with Master Lock, you can actually take these locks and make them into different belt levels. So you don't have to go and buy a ton of different locks in order to progress through the various belt levels. And then we've got the Master Lock 570 and the 576. So with the orange belts, what we will typically get are 5 pins and a combination of spool and serrated pins, and also maybe an additional mechanic like in the Schlage Everest here. When you get the pins set, there is actually a bottom pin here that you have to hit as well. So there's an additional mechanic in with that one. And then what we'll do is we will get into the green belt level locks, and that will include the American Lock 1100 series. We've got a couple of pack locks here, so we've got a 90A, I've got a 90, and we've got a UCS 1A with pack lock. I got a Master Lock 6271 here. And these are, kind of in my book, the like the standard green belt that people go for. In my book, the American Lock 1100 series is a milestone lock. The 5200 here is actually the same as that. Pack lock is actually really good. And what's interesting when we're going to look at these different locks here, what you'll notice is the different brands have different challenges. And so with American Lock, in the American Lock 1100 series, you have a 5-pin lock, and you've got a combination of different security pins. You got standard pins and then serrated spool pins. But when we take a look at the pack lock ones, we're going to notice those are going to be 6-pin locks that have a combination of spool pins and serrated pins. And then the Master Lock is a 6-pin lock as well. And so you'll notice that as we're going through the various locks and the different belts, you'll notice that some locks might be a lot more difficult than others, but they're still in the same belt system. And so when you're going for your belts, there are some locks that kind of make it easier to get that belt, but if you want to challenge, there's some really good challenging locks in those belt levels that you can go for as well. Now, currently, I have my green belt in the Lockpickers United belt system. I am working on my blue belt. Now, I've got a couple blue belt locks under my belt. I've got some recorded and posted on this channel, but I don't have my blue belt yet because I still need to do the challenge lock requirement for it. But what I will be doing is I will be adding that towards the end of the series because I've got a Lockwood here. We've got the Padlock 98 Pro. We've got a Yale 500, and then we got Medical. This is the Medical biaxial here. And with these locks, what you're typically starting to see is a lot more challenge. So stuff like barrel pens or counter milling, or like with the medical, you're going to get chiseled pens with a sidebar that you have to then deal with. So these can be, and this is really kind of where that you get to the more advanced level. So I would say white, yellow is beginning, orange is beginning, intermediary, uh, green is in the intermediate lock picker, and then when you're hitting the blue, that's now the intermediate advanced in my book. Now, other people may see that differently, but that's kind of how I'm viewing all of this. And I am always still going to consider myself a newbie when it comes to Locksport. I've been in doing this just for a little bit over a year. I don't have any formal training. This is all self-learned. And the other thing I'm going to be doing in this video series that I think is important is I am going to be using the tools that a beginning lockpicker would have. And so for my yellow, or white, yellow, and possibly the orange, I am just going to be using the picks that you would get out of the Covert Instruments FNG set. So that is the short hook and the 40,000 turner. I'm not going to do raking. The only thing I'm really going to focus on in these videos are single pin picking. And then when we hit the green belt and going into the blue belt stuff, then I'm going to start using other picks and other techniques. Because typically what we're going to start seeing, and maybe even with some of the orange belts, I might start doing it like when I do the Schleg Everest one. I'm probably going to use some other picks on that just to kind of make it a little bit easier, and then talk about why when you're starting to get into the intermediate and advanced set, getting a good collection of picks is going to be very beneficial when you start hitting that. But with these two tools that I have in my hand right now, you can pretty much open any white belt, any yellow belt, and any of the orange belts. In fact, and technically, you can even get into the green belts with them in that. But when I hit this stage in my series, I want to talk about the various pick profiles and how that benefits the lock that you are going for. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with our white belt. And we're going to be taking a look at like the Master Lock 1, 3, and 5 here. Now I'm only going to really kind of focus on picking on one of these, but all these are the same. So what these are 4-pin locks, and they have standard driver pins. And so this is the core that you would find in pretty much all three of these locks here. So it's a nice small core. You got 4 pins. The keyway is actually pretty straightforward. It's not terribly paracentric. It's easy to get your pick in. And so, the question I get is, because you can't see what's in the lock, how do you know where you are? And so what I always recommend to beginning lock pickers is start off with a nice cutaway lock. Now I got this cutaway lock off of Etsy, and it is a Schleg keyway, but it does give a really nice view of what is going on in a lock. So I removed 2 pins just so that we had the 4 pins that would be kind of similar to what you would have in here. And so what we're seeing here is we have our key pins, and those are the pins that are on the bottom. We have our driver pins. These are the pins that are on the top. We have our springs, and then we have our caps here. And the way that the lock is set up is the area up here that houses the springs and the security pins, there you push all that up there. This is the Bible. And then you have the casing and you have the core, or the cylinder and all of that. And so what the goal is in picking is what you're going to do is you're going to manually lift each of these pins until you can get that gap between the driver pin and the key pin at the shear line. And so if I grab my tension bar here, and that one's not going to work, let me use this one here. I'm going to try to do this one-handed here just to kind of show you what you're going to do. So when you're picking a lock, what you're doing is you're inserting your pick, and you're going after the pin that is binding. And so you can see pins 1, 3, and 1, 2, and 3 are pretty springy. You know, I can lift them, they come back down. You know, there's not a lot of give on them. But if I come to pin 4, you'll notice that is tight. And so that is your binding pin. And so what you're going to do is you're going to raise that until you hear a click. And with standard driver pins, it's actually, they're easy to pick because what's happening is you don't have to worry about false sets. They just slide along the edges of the pinhole in the Bible here. And so all you gotta deal with is friction. And so once we get that set, what we're going to do now is we're going to go and look for the next binding, and pin 3 here is that binding pin. And actually, let me change over to my other mic here so that we can hear that click. So you heard that click. So now I'm going to come, pin 2 is now the binding one. And so I'm going to raise that, and there's that click. And let's look at pin 1. Alright, and so now once we get everything to that shear line, you'll notice now we can rotate that core. And so you can see all the driver pins are at that shear line. So that's the essence of picking. And with a cutaway lock, you can easily see where you are. But then when you're ready to go on to like the master lock number 1, 3, or 5, you're dealing with this and you can't see where you are in this. And so how do you get used to that? Because what you're going to notice is that the different locks that you work with are going to have different spacings of the various pins. In fact, if I got a really kind of neat decoder here that I got from Wall Lock Tools. And what we've got on this decoder here is we've got quick set, we've got master, and then we've got American and Schlegg, and you can see the spacing between the pinholes and all of that. And they're all different. And so, you know, you'll eventually get a good feel of, you know, the depth of the pins that you're looking at, but if you're just starting, that can be hard. So how do you do that? So what I do is I will take the lock that I'm working with and I'll just insert my pick in all the way down, lift up, and then pull it out. And what you'll do is you'll hear clicks. And so let me jump back over to my other mic here. Alright, so I'm going to insert this all the way down to the back, lift up a little bit, and now I'm going to slow pull out. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a 4-pin lock. And so I'll do that over and over again. until I get a good feel for it. Now, next thing I will do is I want to count or really kind of get a good feel for it. So what I'll do is I'll kind of put this up. So let's go ahead and get that back. So there was the click on pin 4. Now I want to play with pin 4 because I really want to get a feel for where that was. So if I, while raising, push back in, it's not going to let me go in because we've got that pin there. So I'm just going to go down a little bit, insert it just a little bit more, and I'm at pin 4. And so I'm just going to play with it. And once I get kind of the feeling for where pin 4 is, I'm now going to pull it out just a little bit. So there was that click for pin 4. And now I'm on pin 3. So we're going to play with the pin, get the feel for that, pull out. Alright, we're on pin 2. Play with pin 2, get the feel with it, pull it out. Now we're on pin 1. And that gives you a good feel for the springiness of the pins and as well as the depth of the pin. Now, the other thing that you can do while you're doing this is you can also mark your pick. Now, I don't normally recommend marking the pick because, again, depending on when you're going through various different brands of locks, you're going to have different spacing. But what you could do is we can take a key from a master lock here. And if we put the, let me actually change our focus here. If we go to count the number of pins on the keys, what you're doing is you're looking for the valleys here. And so we can see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pins. So this is pin 1, 2, got a little bump there for pin 3, and then pin 4. And actually, if I grab another key here, let me get one that's a little bit better here. I think this one will be good. Oh, this one's going to be a nice one. All right, let's do this key here instead. So here you can really see, you got pin 1, pin 2, pin 3, and pin 4. So what you can do is you can put your pick alongside that and put the hook right at pin 4. And then what you can do is you can take a marker and you can mark pins 3, 2, and 1 on there. And that way you then have a visual line that when you insert the pick into your lock, you know where you are and all that. I don't typically recommend doing it that way just because, if you're going to be jumping back and forth between different brands, that does have a bit of an impact on it. Alright, so now once you are used to where you are in the lock and you can get your pick to the other or to the pins that you want. And while you're playing, what I might recommend doing is when you kind of get the good feeling, maybe just say, okay, I'm going to jump to pin 3, find pin 3, then say, okay, I'm going to do pin 1, and then pin 4, then pin 2. Just jump randomly between the different pins. I find that to be very useful as well. And so now that we've got that, we can now start taking a look at tension and actually starting our picking and all that. And so we're going to be using the 40,000 pry bar that came with the F&G set. And with Master Lock, there are two ways that you can tension a lock. You can do bottom of the keyway tension, in which you're taking this part of your pry bar, you're going to insert it at the bottom of the keyway, and you're going to tension it off of that, like this. Now the other way of doing it is with top of the keyway tension, and that is where if you kind of flip it over, you can hold it like this and tension off the top of the keyway or where the pins are. Now, depending where you're watching this video, your definition of top keyway may be a little bit different than my definition. I live in the United States. Typically, our locks are oriented like this, where the pins are at the top. However, in European countries, it's common where the pins will be face down, and so that would be bottom of the keyway. And that's what I really love about this design on this tension bar, because if you're dealing with, say, master lock here, we've got, you can put um, the smaller side of it in by the pins here, and you have a nice tension still. Or if you're going the other way here, you have a very similar tensioning for that. All right, so now with tension. Tension is an art, and tension is really, really hard to learn through a video. Because when it comes to our yellow belt locks, it doesn't matter the level of tension that you're using. Actually, I'm going to recommend that you use heavy tension. And so heavy tension, typically you'll see the finger bend, you'll see it digging into the finger there. That's kind of heavy tension. Light tension will be kind of just putting your finger on the tension bar and not really doing anything else. And that's going to start becoming a bit more important when we start dealing with like some of the yellow, but more of the orange, green, and blue and higher belts, because some of the security pins or some of the mechanics, you really need that light tension in order to properly feel the feedback from the lock and all that. So, but for the yellow belt lock here, for the master locks here, we can go with heavy tension. So we're going to do that. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take your pick and we're going to attack these locks systematically. So what do I mean by that? I mean, you're going to follow a procedure. You're going to follow a routine when you're picking your locks. So commonly what people will do is start with pin 1, then move to pin 2, pin 3, pin 4, and then when they reach the final pin, they go back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and go about that. Now you can start in the back and work your way front, so 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, or the way that I will sometimes do it is I will go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I would just go back and forth like this. I recommend doing it that way because while it doesn't really matter so much when you're on your white, yellow belts and all that, when you're dealing with some of the like the security pins with orange belt, blue belt, and especially when you're now getting into the blue belt or well the green belt, blue belt level here, knowing what pins you have done and worked on is key. And so you're going to want to keep that systematic approach because that will really make it easier to remember what you've been doing and all that. All right, so now that we know where we are and the depth of the pins, let's go ahead and start picking. And so what you're going to do is you're going to start with pin 1 and you're going to raise it. And in my case, pin 1 is really springy. I'm going to go to pin 2. Pin 2 is really springy. I'm going to go to pin 3. Pin 3 is real springy. I'm going to go to pin 4. Now I'm getting that binding. I got to do a lot of force to lift it. So I'm going to change my mic here so that we hear the clickies. All right. So I'm going to go back to pin 4. I'm going to raise it. So 1 springy, 2 springy, 3 springy. I didn't get a good click on that, but it did click. So now I'm going to go back to 1. 1 springy. 2 is now binding. I got to click on that. I'm going to now hit 3. 3 is binding. Got a nice click there. Now I'm going to go back to 1. And there we go. So now we take a look, say, like the master lock number 5 here. We're going to do the same thing. Now this is the same core, so you don't have to really go back through with the learning. So we're going to start with 1. And 1 is springy. Go to 2. 2 is springy. 3 is binding. Nice click on 3. We're going to go 4. 4 is springy. So we're going to hit back to 1. 1 is binding. Somewhat. You'll hit these sometimes where it doesn't feel quite right. So what you may want to do is you want to release tension. And so I'm just going to reset. I'm going to go back to 1, 2. Alright, there was 3. I'm going to kind of hit 4. So there was 4, and we're open. Now, the other thing that might happen is you may overset a pin. So if I go back to, or go to my number 3 here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that binding pin, and I'm going to get that click, but I'm going to go a little bit further. It's kind of hard to do with these. Alright, so I've overset a pen, and what's happening is when I'm going through, all of the pins feel springy, so nothing's happening. So what you're going to do in this case is just release a little bit of pressure. You don't want to release all of it, but just enough to drop the overset, drop the key pin back, but you want to keep the driver pin up. So you heard that click, so I think we're good. So I'm going to go back through and let's see what we got here. Alright, so I don't think we got it enough. So I'm going to release just a little bit more. And there you heard a lot. So let's go ahead and give it a try now. Nice click there. And there we go. Now we're open. Alright, so when we're looking at overset pins, visually here is what's happening. And let me change our focus here real quick. So if I go through and let's say I'm going to set pin 4 here because that was the binding pin. Alright. And so you can see here, if I can get that there, that if I push up too high, here's our driver pin and here's our key pin, but our key pin is now across the shear line. And if I go to try to do the other pins here, you'll notice all these now are springy and I can't set anything. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to alleviate just a little bit of pressure. And the goal is to try to just drop that key pin right there. And so you'll see that now our driver pin is still up. That might be at the shear line. But what we can do is we can insert our pick and just give that a little bit of a try. Yep, there we go. And let's do number 3 here because, yep, now 3 is binding. And we can go through now and pick the lock open, assuming you don't drop the tension bar, which, by the way, when you do picking, that is a common thing that will happen, especially with top of the keyway tension. And we'll talk about that when we actually hit that situation in my videos here. Alright, so that is kind of the approach on how to pick the white belt level master locks. Now, you do have some other locks here. You know, I don't really recommend doing like the master lock number 7 for your first white belt. at least this is the way that I thought about it. The master lock number 7, hey, this is a tiny lock. Hey, it might be easy to open. These locks can be a lot harder, especially if you have just that limited number of tools. And so if we take a look here, what you're going to notice is that if I insert in the bottom of the keyway tension here, that really restricts this amount of space that I have in my lock here. And that's the problem with bottom the keyway tension, is that it is utilizing, a lot of good space under the key pins. And if I go to say now pick this open, I'm not going to have a lot of space. And so in particular, if say like pin 1 is like a high number pin, like a pin 9, where, the key pin is a long key pin, that's not going to let me pick it because it's not going to have enough room to get by that without oversetting pin 1 there. What you can do is you can sometimes take that smaller end and utilize that, and you can see now I've got a little bit more room left. But even though that these may be a little bit easier to pick, or they might, because of the smaller size, they are actually a little bit more difficult because you don't have that room. It's like, I always struggle to find the room to work with these in order to get them open. So do be cautious of the mini locks, like the number 7. I've got a 120 here from Master Lock that is really tiny as well. So in comparison, that's the 130. And so, that is something that you do want to be considerate about. Alright, so I'm going to end this video here. I hope everybody found this video to be informative and that you liked it. Always feel free to like and comment on my videos. If you do have questions about the white belt level, do feel free to post a question in this video and I will try my best to answer it. In my next video, I am going to go through the yellow belt and we'll take a look at some of the locks in here. I may break yellow belt into a couple of different videos. And as we go up into the higher belt levels, I'm probably going to kind of only include 1 or 2 lock in the videos per video, or else my videos are going to be hours and hours long at that point. So I hope everybody enjoyed the video. And I hope everyone has a beautiful day, and I will see you all later.